When I was younger, my parents put me in art lessons after school, and we did a lot of perspective drawing and portraiture and just a lot of shapes and shadows. And it wasn't until later that I discovered that I really like painting florals. My art teacher growing up in elementary school was Mrs. Hart, and she was fabulous, and she gave us confidence. So once we did a still life of these, it was like a saxophone and really complicated instruments to draw. And so I did my sketch, I did my watercolor. I wasn't happy with it. I actually crumpled it up and I threw it in the trash can. Well, Mrs. Hart came along and she took it out of the trash can and she had it framed, and it actually hung in our school-wide art show. And that gave me so much confidence as an artist that your art doesn't have to look perfect. You know, someone else is going to appreciate it and love the hard work you put into it. The florals I love the most because it's my color palette. It's the hot pinks, it's the lavender, it's all these different shades of green. And if you see a garden any time of day, the sunlight is just shifting through it, and all the leaves, you know, overlapping each other, just all these different shades of green, and I'm just really inspired by that. My mother-in-law has the best garden, and she has things blooming in different textures throughout the year. Even in the winter, there's something to look at in her garden. It's just incredible. She also has just the sweetest personality. I mean, she is growing things for the family and the community, and she volunteers a lot with the Master Gardeners. So she's very inspiring to me because she's just consistently working on what she loves. She's very passionate about gardening. I remember she invited me to display my art at a Master Gardener conference in 2016, and it was one of the first times I displayed my floral artwork. I had just gone full-time as an artist in 2015, so it was really one of my first big shows, and she was so supportive. She also does a lot of workshops where she's teaching, and so it was a great model to me, someone who was never a natural teacher, to realize, okay, maybe I can get up and communicate and be a good speaker. You know, my mother-in-law does it, and I see that example. So perhaps, you know, I can share my passion with other people too. We moved here to Bluff Park in 2019. I started having private students come to my home studio here to take art classes, and I could really fit about 4 at a time. And I did lessons here in my basement, and I saved up money for my own place called Art and Soul. So at Art and Soul, we taught after-school classes, watercolor workshops, birthday paint parties, and it really was just the best thing. I loved it, and I had so many great moments teaching art, and it really helped my own art journey as well, because my students were always pushing me, you know, Miss Amy, can we do this? Miss Amy, can we do pelicans? Can we do, you know, monster trucks? Can we do, and you know, so it wasn't just flowers there, it was all sorts of things. So it really pushed me as an artist to, you know, out of my comfort zone. So after Art and Soul, I really focused on my own artwork. Recently, I taught at a career day for a local elementary school, and when I spoke about being an artist, being a businesswoman, I saw girls just light up in the audience, and some started clapping a little bit because it was just a good thing for them to see. So that made me feel empowered in a way, just as a woman. I've done a lot of great art shows, including the Bluff Park Art Show last year. I've done Birmingham Art Walk, done a lot of like little shows and big shows. I had a studio in McBeeham for a little while, and really just getting to that work-life balance that I didn't have when I was a business owner. So these days I'm really enjoying focusing on my own artwork, and I release collections maybe 3 times a year, and maybe 4 or 5 paintings in each collection of different sizes and price points, and I put them on my website, and then my email newsletter receives a link to shop that. I keep coming back to painting as my main thing, even though I have other interests. I love writing and creative writing. I write a lot of poetry, and the feminine figures that I paint are inspired by one of my poems. It's called Gardens Inside, and it's about what we nurture inside of ourselves, like what emotions we allow to exist, and just who we want to be as a person just is the garden inside of us. And so I like to paint really body positive feminine figures, and then have the florals kind of blooming outside of them. I love the idea of somebody blooming. I like to look at a lot of Birds and Blooms magazines and wildflower books. I like to visit my mother-in-law's beautiful garden, and I'll make sketches, and then those get translated onto the canvas. And typically I don't sketch anything. I just go with my brush, and we just go as we go. Even with watercolors, I don't love to sketch anymore. I really just use my brush just to go for it. One of my collections last year, I did all with a palette knife. I didn't use any paintbrushes at all. It was a lot of like quick movements and loads of texture and paint and bright colors. And so that was really fun and freeing. But then it's kind of nice to get back to the more structured, you know, perfectly placing the details with the paintbrush. I really enjoy both of those techniques. I like to use colors that complement each other, but each painting looks distinct from the other. I had a woman purchase one from my last collection that had a lot of red in it, and she said this perfectly complements the red in my rug, and she hung it over her couch. And so you never know what color someone's going to connect with. Someone else will look at it and say, oh, there's so much orange in that painting, but you know, that's somebody else's cup of tea. So I personally like to use every color in the rainbow. The ones back here are even kind of tropical in their color palette, but I just love anything beachy colors and just really vivid colors. So I do a collection every couple months, and I'll work on maybe 3, 4, 5 at the same time. I'm gonna do one this fall, and I've applied for a couple art shows this fall. They haven't told us yet if we're in or not, but that's what's coming up for me soon.